basically, we're going to follow the order in which everything was presented in the announcement. So we'll go ahead and start with the conversation in AMA with Jeff from Flux, kind of go over some cool details of Flux in case you haven't heard of it. So we'll go over like a nice overview, and then we'll dive a little deeper, and perhaps Jeff will be so kind as to bless us with some alpha ahead of everyone else, so that we can go ahead and do with that what we will. And following that, we'll go ahead and speak with Choo Choo Moon about the launch of Genome's NFT. And following that, we'll go ahead and just go over some details regarding what we've been working on silently, quietly on this other side, heads down, but definitely going to be pretty exciting to share that with you guys. So, okay, let's just go ahead and jump right into it then. Bunzi, would you like to take it away from here?
Cool. Yeah, I met Jeff in the Flux channel, and he was a super amazing guy, helping out not only on the Flux team but really active in their community, and agreed to jump into our happy hour and made it 10 times more amazing, if you ask me. So, but
No,
yeah,
no pressure.
welcome, bro. Yeah, you better be awesome. Not just kidding. No, but
Yeah.
it's great to have you, man. And just so everyone kind of gets an overview, if you just want to let everyone know who you are, what you're
Sure,
doing at Flux,
sure.
and we'll go from
Yep.
there.
So I'm Jeff Key, as I'm known on Discord and in the Flux community. I'm a business developer, so I'm not a pure developer per se, but I'm the guy who's working with the new partners and partnerships that we're working on. So I have contacts with some really cool real life companies at the moment, so non-blockchain companies. Oh my god, I almost leaked already the name. Um, Worse than Dan at this point. And so my job within Flux is to welcome everybody into the Flux world, help people find their way into our nodes. If there's any technical questions I can answer quickly, I'll gladly do that. But I'm also working with some really cool projects and getting them familiar with Flux and how we can help them get into blockchain and get into Web3. So that's my main goal. And today was pretty busy. I had 3 separate calls with 3 very unique but really exciting things. And unfortunately, I can't really disclose who it is. But let's say one is very educational. Um, the other one is a very large IT company in the world. Um, and so we're trying to find ways how we can help them. So they're not there to help us; we're there to help them, and that's pretty cool, actually. So we're sharing our knowledge so that we can get them onto Web3 and on into our ecosystem, basically. I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with what Flux really is. If not, I can take a minute to quickly explain it. It's not that hard.
Yeah,
Um,
please do.
so Flux itself is a multifaceted thing, right? So some people come in for the master nodes, don't really understanding what the master nodes are, but just jumping straight into it. But our Flux nodes or master nodes are not just a master node just to stake your coin and put it aside and we'll come back to it and take our rewards. No, the Flux nodes that we have is actually computational power generated by everybody in a decentralized way. That can go from running your gaming PC to a Pi or a Jetson at home, or renting a VPS if you don't have the bandwidth at home, to providing bare metal and to go full data centers if you like, and all that with intent of decentralization. Flux has the goal to stand up against AWS and Azure's and all the centralized old school Web 2 thinking. And we want to be able to provide infrastructure to everybody. And that can go from a person wanting to just host a quick website for a few cents a month to people wanting to run full on applications and or web services, etc. So that's one thing. We have, of course, we're already running a bunch of decentralized applications. At this point, we've got Zelcore, which is actually a separate company, but we kind of like to drag that with us. We use it for management of our Flux nodes. It's an awesome wallet that has a ton of coins in there. So for me, it's my one-stop shop for anything wallet related. It's a lightweight wallet, so I don't have to keep track of all the different wallets and keeping it up to sync, dealing with all that. So it's easy to use. We've got, of course, a Flux coin. Duh, I forgot about that. That's basically our main driver of everything. So that's how we purchase space on our infrastructure. We use it to. It also drives our Flux node. So if you stand up and dApp, the chain itself is basically driving and making sure that all these applications run on all the different nodes everywhere in the world, however many instances you want. And then last but definitely not least, we have parallel assets. So what I like to call them is basically it's Flux on vacation. And what that means is, that, for instance, we have Flux Ethereum, Flux Solana. I think we're going up to 10, and I believe we have 5 at this point released. And basically, what it means is that it's Flux living on those chains. So if you're using Flux Ethereum, we have to follow the rules of Ethereum. So we will have to abide by the evil gas fees that Ethereum has. But you can use that Flux then in a DeFi world where you can use it to buy NFTs and trade and however you want to use it. The parallel assets also opens the doors to easier integration. Prime example, for instance, would be Binance. Binance is not using our current native Flux coin chain. They're actually using Flux BSC, so they're using their own Binance Smart Chain. Smart move, I guess. And they're also using Flux Ethereum, for instance. So we didn't have to do anything. They basically connected with our contract on those change and integrated directly with them without a hitch. So that was amazing to see, and it was a prime example on why we did these parallel assets. And you acquire these parallel assets by mining, because yes, we also mine. So we have we have GPUs that are mining and progressing our chain. We have a very strict rule is that we like GPU mining, so we like to keep that. And so whenever we feel like there might be ASICs on the horizon or people figuring a way out to cheat the system, basically, we'll be forking away from it and we'll create a new algorithm as we go. And talking about algorithms, at the end of the year, we'll be doing proof of useful work, which is one of the conversations I was having today. And we basically are working on a platform where we will be able to utilize our amount of GPUs that we have, and it's growing day by day. And that basically will be used for actual issues. Think about simple things too, like weather predicting. You send that information to us, we'll do the computational work for you, and we'll present it back where people now have to go and buy all that hardware, and then it sits there idle. It's our goal to have that hardware readily available. You need it, you use it, you pay for it. The miners get paid with it, and that will be proof of useful work in a really tiny nutshell. That's Flux. It's a big thing. It's growing. It's growing day by day, and there's more to come this year.
Yeah, that was quite a lot to unpack because I've actually been mining Flux for quite some time, GPU, and that was one of the biggest things that stuck out to me was proof of useful work because it really shoots down the whole conversation of um, crypto not being green or kind of wasting energy. And I think that's naturally the next huge step. And you guys leading the way on yeah, it's amazing. And then you guys also have a partnership with NVIDIA, correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Yeah, and then just for context too, Damien and I recently had a podcast with the co-founder Daniel. So he spoke to a lot of interesting things coming up too. But mainly, what's really cool right now is the halvening that happened with you guys.
That's
And
correct.
yeah, and now you can run a Flux node. I just started one because like it's literally a tenth of the price now. For at least for the
Yeah,
Cumulus.
absolutely. It was so when we started the nodes, Flux, or at that point still was called Zell, um, we were talking a few cents for a coin.
Yeah.
So standing up a Cumulus, or I think what was it called back in the day? A basic. Um, that costs you like a few $100 tops, and you
Mhm.
had a full node running. Um, but at the same time, the rewards at that point, yes, you got plenty of Flux back in. The dollar value against it was pretty low, so a lot of node operators back then were kind of hosting it at a loss. Um, but they've been well rewarded at this point
Oh
for
yeah.
sticking it out. And so, but we were starting to get people getting really anxious, and we noticed that there was a slowdown on new nodes coming online. So we knew we had to do something to make it easier again for people to jump into it. And so we did the halvening, and like you said, it's where you needed 10,000 coins before, it's now 1,000, and that gets you going. And I think I would have to check again. I think we're at this point we've grown to almost 7,000 nodes. 2 weeks back we were at 3,000. So we've doubled in size, and the halvening isn't even over, right? So
Mhm.
Monday, I believe we do our Stratus servers, our big boys. They go and do the halving on. They start on Monday with the
Oh,
new collateral.
oh, I didn't know that. So that because that drops to 12.5, right? Like,
Yeah, the 12.5 has already been done. That was last weekend, and this weekend or on Monday we do the last one, and
oh,
that's the
that's right. That's
Stratus.
Nimbus. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, that was Nimbus,
Yeah.
correct.
So these are the different levels of nodes. So I guess kind of want to hear from everyone. Like, which way do you guys want to take this conversation? More so on the technical side, or how to get involved with like the mining? What's everyone interested in?
What's your integration into KDA as well as partnership?
Yeah. So KDA, for instance, runs. We run their infrastructure, all of it. KDA was very well aware that if we go to certain entities, let's call a couple hosting platforms. Let's say they go to Vulture or OVH in the States, because I think most of the people online here are North American, looking at the time. They're pretty central, and or they go to AWS or Azure, then it's costing them a ton of money, and it's very centralized. So if those things go down, they're down, and we've seen that a few times already with a couple exchanges. We've seen that with a couple chains as well. That if their hosting goes down, they're dead in the water. Um, we actually had an issue a few weeks ago, and which kind of like testing in production. You don't want to do that, but it happened. Um, what was the trigger again? I forgot about it. But basically, what happened was, yeah, there was an issue with the chain itself. It was an old bug that was that all of a sudden reared its ugly head. And so what started happening was a couple of mining pools went down, so things slowed down, and we never went down. That's the thing. Our nodes never went down. We remained operational. The dApps kept coming in. So KDA never even noticed it that we were struggling on our chain for a few hours. But yeah, bug has been fixed, by the way. um, but no, we never went down, and that's the beauty of it. And even today, so we have people running VPSs on all of the platforms I just mentioned. even if we would to take all of those platforms out, we are still operational because people are hosting at home now. We made it easier to host at home at this point. You can host multiple servers at home if you have the bandwidth. I think we do 8 nodes now per IP. So if multiple public IPs, you can double it, triple it. But that's the beauty of the decentralized world.
So-
We don't go down.
Kind of to add to that, like I know that KDA is proof of work, right? So I guess I'm kind of trying to figure out how they would go down or how they run through AWS if they're proof of work.
They have nodes as well, and their infrastructure, like CADX and all that, is running on our stuff.
Okay, so it's running news. Are you aware of Quan Platform? Just like, sorry, I'm not trying to take up all the time, but
Sorry,
I wonder if you've heard of Quan Quan Platform.
no, I haven't.
Okay, so not saying it's God's answer to everything. You know, it's a small cap. Might work out, might not. But I was looking at their setup, very interesting, and I was wondering if you guys are looking at something similar in this direction. But it's basically a 5-minute deployment to Google Cloud, 5-minute deployment AWS, so on and so forth, contract. And then in addition to that, they're an any language platform as well as quantum resistant. Obviously, there's no such thing as quantum proof, right? But are you guys working towards quantum resistance, or are you guys worried about that, or are you even is that even in your view? Or
I'm not familiar with the project, so I'm not gonna speak bad or good about them. If I'm not aware, I can't really judge them. I'm not aware of any roadmap at this point. What regarding your question at this point that I'm aware of. So no, I have no answer to that. Sorry.
okay, you know, it wasn't really more towards them as much as it was as far as quantum resistance, right? So quantum computing.
Yep, I'm aware.
Okay.
But and the devs are well aware of the issue as well. But I have no idea if that's on the roadmap to when we were starting on that.
Yeah, I was just wondering.
No,
I
fair
know
question.
a lot of that just has to be, and the reason I ask is because a lot of the time, some of these chains I think are working towards that, but that has to be kind of integrated into the code kind of ahead of time. That's why I was.
Yeah, and so every time you make some change to your chain itself, you have to do forks for that. So that's always a risk, and so we like to minimize risks as much as we can. Now, you're absolutely right. If we need to be aware of the quantum mechanics and the speed these things work. So that will at one point become a critical issue to resolve. So and we like to tackle those before at any given time. So at the same time, we can't just focus on purely the chain itself. We like to make sure that we actually have more than just a blockchain here and actually have something sustainable that actually has a valid use case. Now, I don't know the coin you're talking about, so I'll gladly look into it because we welcome anything. Like competition is good. Like I really welcome any type of competition. There's other people out there who are trying to do what we're doing, and I love it. That's good because that makes us stay on our top of our game, and it makes them get better as well. And we don't want to be the only provider here because that's again centralization. We want to be decentralized. We want to be an option. We don't want to be the only solution. So we want to make sure that our stuff is good, that it can be trusted, can be worked on, can be. We want to be good at what we're doing, but we don't want to dominate everybody and say, look, we're the only solution here. That's not our goal. That's AWS. That's Azure thinking. We don't want to be evil. We want to be a part of it, and we want to make sure that everybody has an option and pick and choose where they want to deploy when they want to deploy a website, for instance, or an application. Good question, though.
Yeah, no, I have other questions, but I'll let somebody else speak, and then if nobody talks,
Can I ask you a question, Hancock? What's the coin name again? So KWAN or
QAN
QAN?
Yeah.
QAN. All right, I'll have a look.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
Deployment times and stuff are pretty good. So I didn't know like if you had like a comparable to what you're doing versus what they're doing.
Yeah,
obviously
so
there's not a lot of traction on them yet, but I think there will be in time.
And so every coin has that problem right at the beginning, so they have to grow, and so they'll probably have a vision, and if they have it already, that's awesome. A big problem that I personally found with Flux is the ease of deployment of your application, and so I'll be a leaky den today.
Nice.
Tomorrow we'll be showcasing our way of deploying a dApp on the network. If you would go today and look at it, you'll be a little hesitant of deploying because it's just a one pager to get it going. And the thing is that it works great if you're a developer and you understand what you're doing and you've done this 20 times, 30 times, 100 times, then it's easy. You'll blindly do it. But I made it a challenge for myself, so to build a new way of deploying it and to guide you into it. And if you know what you're doing, great. And if you have some issues with it, it's a step-by-step process. It has help functions at your fingertips. There's a guide ready to go at any given time. So it is. It's ready to go, and I think we'll be releasing it on Monday. But you didn't hear that from me.
Nice.
Yeah, I think sorry, KDA and Flux are both great solutions in the space, and everything will hold its own piece of the pie at the end of the day.
Yeah,
think
and
they do well.
I'm already looking at your Quan or Con. How do you pronounce it? Quan?
I always call it Quan.
Yeah.
Kanks or QANX and stuff like that. But it's a smaller cap, not a lot of traction yet. But I do like the idea behind what they're doing and the deployment times and stuff like that. I think are really good.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Like I said, I welcome anyone who wants to do this. We don't want to be the only solution there, right? So the more people that do this, the better.
Yeah, I sent you their deployment times and like how they compare themselves to other chains and stuff like that. And like I was wondering, maybe do you have anything like that, like what I just sent you?
Give me a time to look into that.
Okay.
But like an overview like that is what you're looking for.
Yeah, just something comparable. I didn't know
Yep.
if you guys had anything charted out. Like
I can tell you right now. So decentralization level 3 out of 3. Yeah, we have that. Programming language, you pick your own language. You want to stick with pure HTML, great. You want to go to C++ or anything else, have at it.
So you guys are any language platform, essentially?
Any language
Okay,
that
cool.
goes.
That's all I wanted. All right, awesome.
Consensus, proof of work, hybrid blockchain, yes, because we do have nodes. Ethereum EVM compatibility. We're already integrated with Ethereum, so we don't have an issue there. Cloud deployment time. I have not checked how fast I can deploy it, but it basically is instant the moment you press the button. The only thing that it can take is 2 minutes, because that's the block time. So if you're unlucky, you're waiting for 2 minutes. Quantum resistant to security. At this point, that has not been our focus, and I don't think for a ton of coins it has been.
No, I was just wondering about the rest. I wasn't really. The quantum is kind of its own thing in a sense. I would say,
Yep.
like not a game, not a. I would say a deal breaker for me, right?
Yep.
It just
no, but
nice
it's a valid
looking at
point. It's something that will happen. Computing power is getting stronger and stronger. I was looking at the latest AMD EPIC processors. Those things are
Oh, yeah.
beasts at this point, and it's getting faster and faster. I find that we had like a stale for a decade. Like things were improving. Don't get me wrong, but my 10-year-old computer was still able to just keep going as if nothing was changing. So yeah, it's definitely changing now. I feel, and things are improving. So I'm curious. But we'll have to make it a priority at one point to start working. At this point, it's not our focus. That's a nice to have at this point. It's not a need at this point.
Yeah. I feel like quantum computers still kind of out there, but I think like probably in the next 5 to 10 years we will start seeing people making
Yeah.
ones.
But you
Right.
do realize 5 years in crypto is an eternity. It's like a century almost, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
just look at the speed. It's April almost, but the things we've released just this year, it's flying. So we'll have time. We'll have time to work on it, and then, like I said, it'll be a priority definitely at one point. And thank you for introducing me to another coin, because this is also for me interesting to see what other people are doing. So I'll definitely be looking at them. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's always good to look at the space and try and look at everything that makes sense. I don't look at things that don't really make sense, I would say, but yeah, I think, like I said, I like Flux, I like KDA. I think you guys go hand in hand in a lot of ways.
Yep. Yep, they're one of the first folks to embrace our philosophy on the decentralization, and it's benefited both of the projects, I think.
And you guys are doing 10 out of 10 when it comes to you versus Solana versus the network going down.
Yeah, we, like I said, we struggled, but we didn't go down, and that's the beauty of it. Like a mining, so when a mining pool, for instance, has an issue, that's a lot of hash sometimes that drops off all of a sudden, and what that can do is, especially when our difficulty is higher, it can cause a temporary halt on the network because there's no block being found. I guess all the people here on the channel are well aware of it. But that doesn't stop our infrastructure of working, so that still keeps on going. The only problem you would have at that point is you would be waiting for a few minutes for your dApp to launch, if you would be launching at that very moment. But yeah, that's it. But thanks.
Nice. Anyone else have anything? Anything on their mind? Pax? You're lighting up, but we can't hear you. Well, I can't really hear it, but yeah, I was when we were speaking with Daniel, he was saying 80% of the nodes went down and everything still stayed online, which shows like how strong your guys' infrastructure is and how well spread it is. Which is quite insane.
Test one.
Oh, there we go. What's up, Pax?
What's up? What's up? Yeah. So going along with that, like staying up, right? And versus Solana, like Hancock just kind of hinted at. Let's talk about that for a second. I had some interesting questions about that. So, what's your transaction cost in comparison to like Solana or something like that, like and speed?
Yeah, so our block time is 2 minutes.
Okay.
So we're definitely not Solana fast. I'm the first to acknowledge that. And we don't aim to be either. If we want to use Solana speed, when it's operational, we can right now. So if you want to move your Flux via Solana and go blazing fast, because they're really fast when it comes to transactions, you can definitely do that. You can use our Flux Solana token and move it around. So that's one thing. What was the other question? Sorry, Friday evening.
I don't mean to cut in, but wouldn't that speed be more due to the fact that Solana is centralized?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to point that out. Sorry.
Right. And okay, my other question would be like, because from my impression, like you guys are real game friendly and like metaverse friendly. I mean, they were talking. I watched this one podcast and they were talking about firing up the Minecraft server. You know, for those guys that got shut down or whatnot. And so like, do you have any partnerships with like Render or anything like that? Like, are you looking at the metaverse and gaming? That's kind of like part of my uh, spectrum here. In
Yeah.
this.
No. That's a fair
Ask a
question.
separate question to what I usually talk about. So
It's a fair question. So we're not aiming to be your token in a game thing. It's actually funny because somebody asked me that today as well. We're aiming to be your infrastructure. So if you want to run up stand-up servers for games, we're going to be your go-to person basically.
Amen.
So we're not against. If you want to use our Flux in a game and hand it out in games, by all means, go for it. And you can use it right now. Try if Solana has an option like that, you can use Flux tokens in a game. It's available to do, and to make it work. But it's not our aim. So we're aiming to be the provider of the infrastructure.
Right.
And so the way we see it is we're basically, if you think about the gold rush in a century ago, basically the people who got rich were not the people with the finding the gold. The people who got
Picks and
rich were the
shovels.
people,
Yeah.
the pickaxes and the shovels that were handed out and sold. Those were the guys who were making money, and that was out of necessity that they were there and providing them. That's what we're trying to do as well. We're trying to provide you with the infrastructure, and you can deploy however you want it. But we're still an iterative technology, so we're still working on getting better and better. And the way we do that as well is by testing our limits. One of our limits was discovered when we were deploying the Minecraft servers during our 30 on 30 action in December. So we did a competition as well, and people were creating a fun game, and they had a beautiful world created. And the Minecraft server was hosted on somebody's node, and somebody's node went down, and so went the world, and the world was gone. So we learned a valuable lesson there. This is not good. We can't deploy applications, and then if they move to a different node, have their world disappear. If this would be somebody's database or somebody's application or storage that he was using, that would be bad news. So
Right.
we immediately made that a top priority to become persistent. And so that is already being developed as we speak. I was actually looking at options today because we have a couple options that we can utilize for this stuff. And so we are already working on the solution for that. So that will be Q2 is my goal to have that finished, that we will be persistent, and that if you have a Minecraft server going and yes, the node stops, your world is not gone. So that's important because that's something that I need as well if I want to talk to certain partners. I can't have them be dependent on a central server again because we can't provide it. That's not our. Then we're basically useless. So
Right.
we don't want to be that. We don't want to be useless. So
Good
we'll
point.
we're working on that. So we're like, as you might have heard, I'm not glorifying here. I am just being very realistic in where we are in our path, and I want to make sure that everybody is aware we're still growing, we're still learning, we're still developing, and we're not promising that we are already the product to be. No, we're growing as well, and so the more exposure we get, the better our product will be, and the better everybody will get in the long run. And that's the game here. We're not playing short term, we're playing the long term game.
Well, I'd
Can
like
I-
to say thank you for coming and sharing because yeah, we're all inquisitive and this is totally like appreciate your time and everything. We
No
like the
worries.
technology. From my consensus inside the group people I've talked to, we like the technology. You know what I mean? So yeah, appreciate it.
Could I add to that real quick? Also, like, I really like the fact that you basically come out and say, no, that's not our focus. And I'm not saying that because like people shouldn't focus towards gaming, but I feel like a lot of these projects, they're trying to adhere to hype.
Yeah.
And this is really going to mess with their price floor if things really start to turn down right in the market. And I feel like the projects that will really come out, I think next cycle and shine will be those projects that stayed focused on what they were trying to achieve versus trying to dangle the pretty lights in front of people's faces to get them into their projects.
Well,
So like that really builds a lot of confidence with me as an investor to, look at your project a little better.
well, I'm glad to hear that because that's also my focus, right? We can be I don't want to be the guy or the product that or project that keeps jumping left and right and left and right just to keep on trying to follow what the current flow is in the hypes. Everybody's jumping on NFTs now. Every coin out there is trying to do NFTs. We're thinking we had the discussion. Don't get me wrong. We had the discussion. Do we need to do NFTs? And I think it's even on our roadmap, but it's down the road for us as a maybe a goal for us. But we're not thinking of, and I might be stepping on toes here. Sorry if I am. We're not thinking of funny ape things here. We're thinking, how can we actually use that in a real case scenario? So if we do it, it'll be more with the intent of we have a use case, a real use case. Now we focus on it. But we have other things to worry about at this point, and we want to make sure that our base is good. And if our base is if our foundation is solid, we can build. We can build on anything. And NFTs, or however you want to call it, they can come down the road. And there's a couple really cool projects coming that are using our infrastructure. A Paradigm, for instance, which is a medical product. Basically, it brings back your patient record into your own hands, and so I can see NFTs tie in with that, and NFTs would at that point be medical imaging, for instance. So there's different needs out there that should be addressed instead of funny images left and right.
I like that answer too.
Right.
Kind of to follow up with that, with NFTs, with storage being such a unique part that's not really spoke or talked about much in the NFT space, but getting this data, these images on a decentralized storage, is that something you guys are looking into?
That's more of the path we would take, yes. So when I'm talking medical imaging, we would be the one storing those images in a secure way, and so that people can access them anywhere in the world where they need to be.
Yeah, because it makes a lot of sense as someone that runs a node that potentially, since I'm already on the network, attaching more storage space could essentially solve that issue, based off of the infrastructure you guys already have today, correct?
Yeah. And so currently we're focusing on the halvening, making sure that all goes smooth, and it's been going really smooth so far. But one of the next phases as well is, okay, now we have our computational servers now running, and they all have their base pieces of storage attached to them. The next phase will be, can we start deploying storage nodes? And that'll tie in with the persistent nodes that I'm talking about earlier with the Minecraft piece, for instance. We're going to have basically servers with storage spread across the world, and they'll be creating volumes, logical volumes that we can then tie into. And then, so if then a storage node does go down, there will be another one ready to go at any given time.
That's
So
that solves a huge problem.
Have you looked at AIs?
Hank, I think I need to talk to you because you're going to give me all the cool projects out there.
So look at AIs as storage, and it's decentralized too.
Hey,
Yep.
Hancock,
Very
could you put
interesting.
all these projects and those that chart and stuff that you were sending in quick chat? That way we can all reference it.
Yeah. Let me grab
I
it
run
real
an
quick.
AOS node, and yeah, that's a good service. What about like Arweave? So you're like trying to move into that space then. So that was another question I had. Like, so what is the like what would be the storage rate or value and duration on those servers? You're talking about persistence, right?
Mhm.
So what do you have any idea about that? I mean, I know this is kind of new and in the develop. You guys are like moving into this to solve a pre-existing problem, which it just makes like this is the next thing because it makes sense. So do you have an idea about that, like duration, storage duration, right? 100 years, 200 years,
Oof.
and what is
It's a very good question, but I don't have the answer to that just yet. No.
what about cost of storage, like as
S-
far as
Yeah, so that's a really good question because so I don't know if you guys know, probably nobody knows here, but my background is medical IT. So so my storage requirements are somewhat different than other people. My storage requirements make it that I need to be able to have mammography imaging, for instance, for ladies going from the first time they had an ultrasound of breasts or a mammogram of their breasts, and we need to keep that for 100+ years. As long as those ladies live, we need to have those images at any given time.
Right.
So there's a different requirement there than other people. So it is in the back of my mind that we need to find a solution for that. Now, that is really long-term thinking on how long are we going to keep doing this, and I think we might have to look at solutions that are already there, and we're not scared to go and talk to other chains and other projects and say, hey, you have the solution already for this. How can we tie into that? And that's part of the exploration that we're doing right now. And I'm
That's a
under
great answer.
NDA.
I appreciate that because you seem like really open, like, and that's the vibe that I got from Flux, and like, so you're integrating possible partnerships with Cadena, which is awesome, and then like it may even, I'm not even sure, but maybe down the road ICP or Arweave, or you know what I mean. The whole Solana blockchain is stored on Arweave for 200 years, for like a fraction of what storage is in the mainstream. Like
Yeah.
there's you don't want to create solutions, and this is just my sidebar here. You don't want to create solutions that there are already really good solutions for. You want to work on what your area is, kind of what you were saying earlier, and
Yep.
what Hancock reiterated. You know what I mean? So like if you have a viable solution, you guys are open to going to other chains and other projects and forming partnerships, right? That's kind of like the third bar on my other question. Can you talk about some of the partnerships that you guys have that are doxed or that you guys are openly participating in, like NVIDIA and anything else like that? Cadena,
Uh,
obviously.
I am under NDA, so I can't really disclose much.
No, so ones that are disclosed, like on Twitter, or you know what I mean, like that you guys have already let people know about. I mean,
Yeah.
sure.
Mm, which ones did we already disclose?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, NVIDIA
Because
and
keeping up with
Cadena
them
and
is not easy sometimes, right? So,
right.
yeah, NVIDIA is definitely one. So we work with NVIDIA, and we're not just Team Green, by the way. So we're with NVIDIA. We have now we have direct access to their development, which is pretty cool. So we were invited now, for instance, like a webinar this week that I was able to attend. So we're directly now engaged with them. So the biggest thing that we're working on with them, for instance, is working on the Jetsons and AI. I have to step through the minefield here, so bear with me because I can't really disclose too much. Because this is all still fairly new. When did we release the announcement? A month ago? 2 months ago? Time
We won't
flies.
tell.
Oh, you won't tell? Okay, that's nice. I can see the Twitter already going. No, I have to be careful what I'm saying here because
No, I'm joking.
Yeah, we
of
can
course.
segue.
Yeah, we
but
don't want you to step on any mines, okay? I'm just talking like what's publicly already out there. Like, you know what
yeah,
I mean?
so
Because some of us might
what's
not
public?
know exactly,
Yeah,
have a
so,
full focus on Flux. So that's all I'm talking about.
fair enough. Fair
I
enough.
don't want you to compromise yourself in any
Yeah,
way, shape, or form.
fair
That's all
enough.
that I
So
was asking.
NVIDIA, the current partnership that we have with them is to focus on AI, and we'll be using that partnership as well for proof of use work and how we can make that better. So the AI is focused on the Jetsons that they have, which is already part of our network with the master nodes. So you can already run a master node on them, and then get that already ready to go. Currently, that thing will only be used for dApps as websites and other things. But the idea is that we would utilize it more for AI work. And to be fair, we actually have some of it already live for 2 years already. If you actually go to our marketplace right now and you go to the applications there, you might actually find one that was actually proof of use will work already. This was one of the first blockchains to be working on a solution for COVID. We did folding at home. We ran that on all our servers. You
That's
could
so
run.
amazing. Oh man, that's awesome.
You could run the application folding at home on our servers, and then we would be using that computational power to right there, right then, to help find and what were we searching for again at that point? Protein that were potentially harmful. So we were looking and helping at that point, and I think we were like the 15 largest at that point to help with that. So
That's
imagine
amazing.
if we would have been doing that right now with our 7,000 servers almost, right? So at that point we had maybe 2,000 servers. So we could have made a bigger difference if we would be doing that now. So that's going to be the focus with companies like Nvidia, and I say companies like
Right.
Nvidia.
Yeah, we got some hints
Um,
towards that too with Leaky
So-
Daniel.
So we're gonna go ahead and throw AMD in there.
Hey, broke
I'll be
up. What
quiet,
was
my
that?
bad. I'm sorry. I'll be quiet.
I didn't say anything. I
check,
said
mic check.
companies like Nvidia and others. So we're working with them already, and so it's there's cool stuff coming.
Yeah,
I don't even
that's-
have to leak anything. You
yeah.
just sit back, wait, and just watch. It's just
We already know who's leading the pack, so
Yeah, no,
pretty
it's
obvious.
a future I see that's super fruitful and just so exciting to think about is like just like what you were mentioning, when all of this computation gets put to use and no longer idle, and it's also serving our decentralized future, computing all of these things that help everything stay trustworthy, safe on the blockchain, and also serving AI and people rendering out animation films as we render out the metaverse, all of that. Like the foundation you guys are laying is pretty impressive. I also wanted to personally ask about the rollout of Titan and
Mhm.
and Jetpack. Those are two cool products you guys got on deck.
Yeah, let's start with Jetpack. So we touched on that earlier, right? So the 5-minute deployment part. So Jetpack is there to help with that. So Jetpack is the tool that we'll be showcasing tomorrow on the AMA. And
Oh, what time
the
is
idea
that for everyone?
tomorrow at 9 EST. So for the Pacific guys, it's a little early. Not gonna lie, it's 8 for me as well. So on a Saturday. But that's to make sure that the rest of the world also can kind of listen into things, right? So,
Yeah.
so Jetpack is focused on making sure that developers can launch their dApps easily. It comes with a calculator to see how much it's going to cost. I used it this week to launch my son's his dApp on the network. You might have seen it. I think there was a lot of twittering about it. And so it's there to guide you into the Flux universe and to make it accessible. And where we have eyes in our head too, right? So we're looking at AWS, we're looking at DigitalOcean and how they present things and how they make it easier. And they got huge amount of resources to do all of this. So we looked, we learned, and we realized that the way we were asking our end user to deploy something was not user friendly. So we made that happen, and it's definitely there now, and it is step by step. Like I think it's 5 steps you have to go through, and the end step is a calculator showing you exactly if you use X amount of CPUs, X amount of memory, X amount of disk space. Boom, this is your Flux price, and with the current dollar value next to it as well. And off you go for a month.
And then
So
does that user have to they pay for their hosting or their
yep, they pay right there, right
on-
then with Flux or
with Flux, correct?
yep, with Flux.
That's awesome.
Um,
That keeps the ecosystem and the tokenomics working.
Exactly. So that's part of it, and yeah, and there's a full guide, fully HTML, nicely presented, step by step guide. even on how to create a Docker. There's a Hello World application that we put in there just to showcase how you do it. And if you follow that step by step, it's really not hard. So we teach you how to create a Docker. We teach you how to create a web page, all in one step-by-step guide, and then ultimately deploy it on Flux.
That's awesome. I also have another personal question. So right now there's a lot of dApps on Flux, but their URLs are, their name .runonflux.io.
Correct.
What does the future look like for just DNS servers, or DNS
You
records
you can
pointing?
use your own DNS right now.
Oh,
So
okay, cool.
everybody so if you and that's actually part of the steps as well is hey, I want to use this domain name. You can just do it. So everybody gets their own DNS from us, so you can straight away start using it.
Gotcha.
But you can put your own DNS in front of it just fine, and just
cool.
point at the run on Flux IO DNS, and off you go.
And then what's the price comparison from AWS to Flux?
My son's DApp is costing him 12 cents US a month.
Yeah, see, this is what we just found out too, and that's nuts. But
Yeah.
can you hint towards the price at AWS if you were to do
I
the
don't
same
even want to
thing?
know.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It's literally, it would be 100, or it depends, but we're talking 100 times. Not even exaggerating, more expensive.
It's funny because it used to be cheap. Hosting websites used to be damn cheap. And I don't know what happened, but it's snuck in there that it had to be a little bit more expensive here and there. They have their free tier. Don't get me wrong. But for 12 cents, you get 3 instances, so 3 servers basically, not just one. You get 3 instances, which guarantees you uptime, and no limit on bandwidth or anything like that. So just
That's
you
the craziest
pick
part.
and
A
choose.
better solution for cheaper. It's just you usually have to sacrifice one of those, but
There's always a catch, right? So and there's no catch. Plus, we don't own your data, so
yeah, Jesus.
go have at it.
Sorry, Damon. What were you saying?
Oh yeah, no. So I just kind of wanted to kind of emphasize a few things, kind of from the perspective of an investor as well as a developer. Kind of the value that I think Flux is really bringing to the ecosystem, because while it can be argued that yes, there are other services that are already doing some of the things that Flux is doing, such as ROE for storage, and other services for computation. What's unique, I feel and believe about Flux is that everything is kind of being brought under one roof, which as a developer, being able to kind of just stay within one ecosystem makes things a lot more seamless and a lot easier to deploy and manage. And especially as you scale, that's something that's really important. And really, at the end of the day, from as a business, the most important thing is going to be cost, right? So who can provide the service for the lowest cost? That's who's going to win. And if you can provide a developer experience that's great on top of that, then it's just the cherry on top. And so that's really what Flux is doing, in my opinion. And so that's really where I think the value really comes. So just wanted to kind of bring that to light and really emphasize that.
And you're absolutely right, and it's catching eyes already. So one of my calls that I had today is a consultancy company, fairly large for Europe, and they have a ton of really large clients themselves, and they caught eye on this. So we're already talking with them. I've been working on a proof of concept with them as well. So we have still our solutions to fix. And there's still things that we need to do, but they're already realizing the potential there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think something that's remarkable too that you guys are doing is specifically partnering with a lot of the existing incumbents, and in doing so, you're extending, I think, like an olive branch, effectively, to the current state of the industry, to either bridge them into it alongside you, and ideally have them run your infrastructure, on the back end, which ultimately is good for you guys. And of course, end users are going to have no idea, right? And even today, they have no clue whether something is running in Google Cloud or AWS. But it doesn't matter because if you look at how much AWS is producing in revenue every year, I think it was about $60 billion as of 2021. That's a hell of a lot of money. And the
Yeah.
really cool, unique thing about Flux, now let's go ahead and go into tokenomics in the bull case for it, right? So if you want to run a node for Flux, you have to actually purchase Flux and you have to stake it, right? Which effectively removes it from the circulating supply, which reduces the float, which means that the price can far more easily increase as demand goes up. The marginal increase in demand reduces as there is more locked up, which as they have market share is the case. So just kind of really want to paint that picture there for everyone because there's a fixed amount of Flux out there. I believe it's 440 million, if I remember correctly. And you
That's
guys are
correct.
about halfway through it, if I'm not mistaken.
That's also
Um,
correct.
and so again, just having these partnerships to I think very quickly, if a lot of these businesses start running everything Flux, like you're going to see some pretty interesting price action pretty quickly. So just if you strictly want to look at it from an ROI perspective, that is something to keep in the back of your mind. And then to also look into the utility and what is being provided as a product. And you can kind of grasp the full scope of what's going on here. Um, so yeah, just my thoughts there.
No.
And then also, I actually had a couple of questions regarding the nature of your partnership. I'm just checking the website to see who there is. Um,
Mhm.
so a lot of these make sense right off just looking at them. Two that are a little curious are one BitPay, and I can speculate what the nature of it is like. And then the second one would be FTX. Would you be able to kind of dive into those a little bit more for us?
Yeah, so BitPay, we're part of the wallets that are that you can use when you're paying anything with BitPay. We have a direct connection with them. You can also use the Connect feature that BitPay has. So there's two ways you can use BitPay with the Zalcor wallet. So that's what we have today. The FTX partnership, I'm not really much involved with, so I really
Okay.
can't delve into that. I'll be very honest.
No worries. Yeah, that one is pretty interesting because FTX has a lot of has some pretty strong legs underneath it. So having them in your back pocket, I think, is pretty good to have. Um, so what was my next question here? Oh yeah, so Zelcore too. Just to define that a little better for everyone here. So Zelcore is basically it's the wallet that you use to operate within the ecosystem of Flux. And so I came up with like a pretty good analogy, and this is just how I understand it. Basically, it's kind of like your portal into Flux, and kind of your mission control as well. And so that's kind of a good way to look at it and how to understand it for anyone who, maybe a little less technical or whatever. I
Yeah,
think it's just a really nice
that
way to
that
frame
that's
it.
one analogy. The way I sometimes see it is that it's the mall. You go to the mall to go buy. There's a Walmart at the mall, so you can buy your bread. That would be the exchanges that you can use within the Zalcor wallet. You can go to the bank. There's often a bank in the mall as well. That's your wallet addresses where you can do your thing. At the mall, you can do certain shopping as well, and that would be, or you can do meetups at the restaurant. That would be your managing your masternode, for instance. So it's a one-stop shop for a lot of things, and it's growing. I remember it just being a wallet at the very beginning. The amount of exchanges that are now in there is quite huge. One is used more than the other. I'm not gonna lie. I think one has more use for it than the other. But I love the fact that you can have all your different boutiques in there, and you can have your Ethereum, your Bitcoin, sitting next to your Flux, or if you have a contract for a certain token with Ethereum and it's not available just yet, you can import it and manage it there. It's
'Cause it looks like you
it's all there.
can connect with KuCoin, FTX,
Yeah.
And
Yep,
because I
we have
run my
API integrations.
yeah, I run my node and I love the interface. Because my node's so new, I'm constantly checking my rank.
Well, if you just do that for your rank, then you should definitely check out the application my kid made the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you haven't yet, oh my
No,
God,
I
you're
have
gonna.
not. Let's yeah, I want to dive into that. That's how cool is that too, as a father. That's got to be a pretty cool moment having your son deploy and
Put it in the general chat, I think it is.
cool, man. That's awesome. Yeah, so we got quick chat in general. Either one works just
Yeah, I
fine.
put it in the general. Sorry, I should have
Oh,
done it in the quick chat.
no need to apologize. Okay. All right, this is exactly what I need.
Yeah, so
Sick.
so I run also notes because that's how I started getting familiar with Flux. Back in the day, I was the first community pool operator, but then I had to do other things outside of crypto. But I did have a few notes and that I ran back then, and this was one of my pet peeves. Is like, oh, I have to go into the wallet to go find my rank and see how. Now I told my son, here's the API, have at her, and he came back with that. So for me, it's now you can
Oh,
if you do you
it
can even do
works.
this,
It works perfect. I just pulled it up. I can share my screen to show everyone.
and if you do that and you put your wallet address behind it, you can even
Yeah.
make it a favorite of yours.
Next pay 60. It breaks it down. That does the math. Perfect. I'm no longer timesing by 2 and then dividing by 60.
Yeah, yeah, it was a question I saw over and over and over again in the support channels as well. Hey, when do I get paid? Yeah, I was quite happy when he made that, and I think it's his third version of it at this point. And to go back to the ease of development, so he uses Visual Studio Code or something like that to create this, and then he uploads it to Docker Hub, and the network takes care of the rest. So we will grab it from Docker Hub and and deploy it. It was actually funny this week. So I don't know if you guys follow a lot of the Twitters that are flying around. We kind of brought Docker Hub to their knees. Whoops. Um, with the amount of Flux nodes that came online, the traffic increased as well. And so you can clearly see, because they contacted us, and you can clearly see they showed us a graph, and you clearly see when the cumulus nodes start going, because the graph is shooting up like parabolic upwards, and they're like, can you guys do something about it? You're like really talkative to our service, and we're struggling here. Like, all right, we'll figure that out. So we fixed that in a few hours, and so we're talking a little less to them so that they're not upset anymore. But it was pretty cool to see how often we reach out to Docker Hub to see if any new version of your software is out there, so that we have to deploy it, and that was pretty cool.
No, that's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, this is clean.
All right, I took up an hour of your time already, guys. So I don't know if
you really did. I mean, I want to respect your time, but it definitely flew by. I appreciate you, man.
All right. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll let you guys go, and you guys can continue your happy 2 hours now, I guess.
Yeah.
It's Friday. No, yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it. It was fun. And going forward, if we ever have any questions, or if you ever have any questions for us or anything like that, or you want to come up, I mean, you're more than welcome. I'm sure we'll be reaching out to you before then.
Oh,
as well.
absolutely.
Everything develops.
I think the podcast Bunzi you did with Dan, I'm pretty sure that must be pretty fun to listen to. So I'm kind of looking forward to that myself. And if you have more questions or anything, jump into the AME tomorrow morning, and you can find me there as well with Dan. And we'll be showcasing Jetpack. We didn't touch on Titan, so I'll quickly touch on that for a sec. So Titan is basically another venue to stake your coin. So again, another staking option, kind of like how CoinMetro does it. But we want to make sure that other people also can jump in a little sooner than that. I think our minimum is going to be 100 coins, and then you can stake it for 3, 6, or a year. so 3 months, 6 months, or a year. And the idea behind this is that we can utilize those coins to stand up enterprise grade servers, and so that we can go after some of the bigger companies out there with serious power. And one of the ideas with Titan as well is that we so basically it's a shared node service, but run by Flux with more secure wallets. So it's multi-sig wallets that we'll be using for that, so that not everybody can get to those coins. So even if somebody gets the private key, there's not much they can do with it without having the signatures from everybody. And part of Titan as well will be being able to present hardware as well to the project. So if you have hardware but you don't have the Flux for it, and you cannot afford the Flux for it, but you have all this hardware sitting there, and I know some really big companies out there that have that issue, then they can hop on and provide that to us. So there's some real cool partnerships coming that way as well, so that we can decentralize further, but then with enterprise grade hardware as well. So everybody can get a piece of the pie, and with the goal of further decentralization, and going from a tiny little pie to a Cisco Blade server or a Dell server in somebody's data center. So from A to Z all the way.
Yeah, everyone gets a piece of the Raspberry Pi.
Yep, that's a nice one.
No, appreciate you, man. It was a pleasure, and I can't thank you enough for what you do for the Flux community and being so cool just to jump in here with us.
No worries.
Yeah,
Right,
thanks
you
for
guys-
your time.
You guys have a good one, and sorry I wasn't familiar with the Quan platform. I'll be definitely following up on that, and I appreciate you guys providing me with AI OZ as well. So I've got some reading to do.
Yeah,
Love
check back in. That's kind of our main focus here is exploring new projects, and now you're opening up the idea of having this be more of a common thing where we find some active projects that are well on their way and having members come in. So this was a really cool experience for myself, and I'm sure everyone feels the same.
All right, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
All right, later, man.
All right. Have a good evening. Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.